Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking with Captain Clyde's MTG. So we're back again for Strixhaven spoilers. We got more leaks. Set's almost done. There's only about 10 cards left. We're going to get a good chunk of them today, so let's just get right into it. But don't forget, like, subscribe, tell your friends, help support the channel so I can keep doing this kind of updates and news for you. And moving on after these leaks, we're going back to booster box openings. And man, I can't wait. So for the first card we have today, we have a black white, and a black white modal hybrid mana. So for 3, you get a 2/2 flyer. Whenever another creature you control with flying dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Not too bad as an uncommon. Might see a little bit of play. Definitely pretty good for draft. Next here, so clearly what this says, it's the Bayou Bandit. So it's a green and 1 for a 5/4. The condition of this, though, is when it comes into play, you sack a creature or pay an additional 3 colorless. So not too bad for a common. Moving on, we have Devouring Tentacles. So Devouring Tentacles, uh, let's see here. It does a creature you control deals power to a creature you don't control or planeswalker. And if it dies this turn, you gain 2 life. So basically, it's a fight spell that can hit planeswalkers and give you 2 life. Not too shabby. So moving on. Here, this one looks like it is called the Big Play. So target creature gets +2/+2 till end of the turn. Then it also gets a permanent +1/+1 counter. So 3 mana for pump of 3, and one of it gets to stay as a counter. Not too shabby. It's pretty good common for 2 mana, so might actually see some play with this. Alright, guys, so next here we have it. The Biblioplex, I think is what it's called. This is the new take on Library of Alexandria. So the Biblioplex says tap for 1 colorless. And then down below it, it says for 2, you tap, look at the top card. If it's an instant or sorcery, you can reveal it, put it in your hand. Otherwise, it goes to the graveyard. And this ability can only be activated if you have exactly 0 or 7 cards in your hand. Um, it sounds okay. It's really going to depend on what the instant and sorceries are. I think it's going to be a powerhouse in some decks. I think it might be expensive when it first comes out, but I think the price is really going to teeter off because it seems a little bit too conditional to be a really, really overpriced card. Moving on. All right, next here we have the Blood Researcher. This is a 2/2 with Menace for 3 mana, and anytime you gain life, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Very interesting. Once again, it's a common 3 mana for 2/2. Don't see a whole lot of play here. Moving on. All right, so we got a rare modal card here. So the green side that you're looking at is called Restorative Burst. It's a sorcery, and it says uh, get 2 creature, land, or planeswalkers. Trying to read the translation here. Gain 4 life, and then you exile this card. So you can get 2 creatures, 2 lands, or 2 planeswalkers. Um, Not too shabby, but for 5 mana, I really don't think this is going to see a whole lot. It might be a good card if the other side of it's worth something, so let's take a look at the other side. The other side here, let's see, it is called the Pestilent Cauldron. So it's a black and 2 colorless for an artifact. It says 1 and tap. You discard a card, you get a 1/1 black-green pest that when it dies you gain a life. It also has, oh, I'm sorry, that's just for tapping it. And then for 1 and tapping it, each opponent mills X cards, which X is equal to how much life you gain this turn. That could be a thing. And then finally, 4 and tap, exile 4 cards from any graveyard, and you draw a card. Not too shabby. It might see some play. It's not really overwhelming me with its abilities, but it seems it's all right for a rare. Let's see here, and then this one here we have the Damogoth Woe Eater. So here it says on your upkeep you sacrifice a creature. When this creature dies, because you would have to sacrifice it if there's no other creatures, your opponent discards a card, you draw a card, and gain 2 life. So it's a 7/6 for 4 mana, but you have to sack a creature every turn. I think this might be a little better than people think it is, just because there's lots of cheap black creatures you can play that make people discard their hand, um, which then they become very easy to sack. Now, it doesn't have Trample, Death Touch, or anything else that's special, but 4 mana for a 7/6, I I cannot see someone not trying to make a deck out of this card. It just seems too good. So moving on. Another one that's not in English. All right, so this one says it's called uh, the Auric Warlock, I think is what it's called. Looks like it says tap, search your library for a card, put it into your graveyard. If it's an instant or sorcery, put a +1/+1 counter on this card. Very interesting. Not bad for 4 mana, but the ability to tap it means you can't use it. I don't see a lot of promise here unless there's some kind of graveyard shenanigans you want to use this for. So moving on. Let me take a look at that for you. Did I miss one? Oh, I did miss one. There it is. So this is called Fail for a black and a colorless. It's an instant. Target creature gets -X/-X, where X is 7 minus the cards in that creature controller's hand. So if they have 2 cards in hand for 2 mana, you get a -5/-5. Seems pretty sweet. I think it sounds like a good removal card, especially late game when people have used all the cards out of their deck. Oh, sorry guys, I'm tired. It's like 2 a.m. here. So it only kills creatures. I still think it's going to be a good card, even though it is situational. But to be honest, the black-white removal cards are so much better than this because they're unconditional. I really think they're going to take off a lot more than that will. So moving on. Next here we have the Pillar Drop Warden. We got 4 mana for a 1/5 with Reach. 2 and tap it. You sacrifice the Warden. Return target instant or sorcery card from graveyard to your hand. Only do this as a sorcery. Good common for draft. That's about as far as that's going to go. Moving on, we have the Overgrown Arch. It's a green and a colorless for a 0/4 defender. Tap to gain 1 life. For 2 and sacrificing it, you can learn. Alright, for those of you who don't know what learn is where you can get a card with a learn super type up here where it would say plant wall normally from outside the game, i.e. your sideboard. Uh, or you can um, discard a card to draw a card. So pretty good mechanic. Um, I mean, obviously, I don't think he's going to see a whole lot of play, maybe in draft, but other than that, not so much. So here we have Containment Breach. It's also an uncommon for green and 2 colorless. This is like we talked about before. This is your lesson you can go fetch. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. If its mana value is 2 or less, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when it dies, you gain a life. Not too shabby for a sorcery. Um, because it says 2 or less as a condition, I think there's better things you can do for 3 mana. Moving on here, we have the Demagoth Titan. Okay, so we have hybrid mana, black green for 4. It's an 11/10. Whenever the Titan attacks or blocks, you sacrifice a creature. Huh. So this could be a thing if you have enough creatures to pile onto the battlefield after turn 4. Um, but when it's all said and done, I don't think this is going to be too big of a thing unless there's some way to get constant recurring creatures onto the battlefield. So moving on, we have the Honor Troll. It's a green and 2 colorless for a 2/3 with Vigilance. If you would gain life, you gain that much life +1. And the Honor Troll gets +2/+1 as long as you have 25 or more life. So basically it's a 4/4 for 3 if you have 25 or more life, which is probably not going to happen. I mean, it seems like it's be fine for draft, but I don't think it's going to be in any decks. Moving on. So this one here is called, let's see here, Deadly Drought. It's a sorcery. Each player sacks a creature or planeswalker. If you sack the creature or planeswalker, return another creature or planeswalker to your hand from the graveyard. Seems pretty good for black green. Um, nice uncommon is a sorcery though. The ability to sack means players get to choose, so it can be to your benefit, but also your opponent's. Um, I'd say it's mediocre. Probably won't see much play, but I can see there being a home for it because you can cycle. You can lay a 1/1, use this, and then pick up some big nappy from your graveyard instead. So I can see this having some play. Next here we have the hunt for specimens. Black and a color sorcery. Create a 1/1 black green pest token creature with when it dies you gain 1 life plus you learn. Not too bad if you actually have some learn stuff in your sideboard you want to go fetch constantly. Professor of Zoomancy. Interesting. So green and 3 for a 4/3. When he enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 black green pest creature token with when it dies you gain 1 life. Eh, 4 mana basically for 5/4 toughness. That's about average. So this is the Witherbloom Campus. This is the basic land we talked about before. It's a dual land, comes in play tap for green and black, and for 4 you can scry. So this is one for every 2 colors. We'll move on. Here we have Harness Infinity. 3 green, 3 black, and 1, so 7 mana. Um, it says exchange your hand and graveyard, exile Harness Infinity. So this could be a thing, especially as an instant. 7 mana though seems like a lot. It's probably a great late game card. Instead of shuffling your graveyard back in. But the thing about this is it says exchange your hand in your graveyard, so you don't get to put them back in your deck. So if you're being decked and your graveyard's full, all you're doing is just pulling all those cards back to your hand, and you're not filling your library back up. So this probably has some very specific scenarios where it would be good, especially being in black green. Might not see a whole lot of play, but I'm sure there's something out there for it being a mythic. Moving on, we have Dinah, the Soul Stepper, Stepper. Anyway, black green for 1/3, legendary creature dryad. Whenever you gain a life, each opponent loses a life. Oh, more of that stuff. That's just fantastic. Sacrifice another creature. Dana gets +X+0 until the end of turn, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. So that's kind of powerful. That 4 black creature, that's like an 11/10. Like you can sacrifice that and make her a 12 something. Um, so that might be the kind of deck that this goes into is that kind of I'm gonna make a big nappy, kind of like the one for 4 that when you sacrifice it you draw a card, they discard a card and you gain 2 life. Because with this, um, for 1 you put that in the field for 1 mana you sacrifice it. So basically for 5 mana you get to have them lose a life, you gain 2 life. This thing becomes a 8/3 to hit them with. They discard a card, and you draw a card. Seems pretty powerful, and definitely could be a thing. So next here we have the Witherbloom Pledge Mage. It's 5 mana for a 5/5, so it's got good cost to it. It has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery spell, you gain 1 life. Nothing special here, just draft fodder. Moving on. Oh, so got a rare here. Sedgemoor Witch. Black and 2 for a 3/2. So it's okay. Has Menace. That's pretty good. Ward. Pay 3 life. Okay. So if you want to target it, you got to pay 3 life. Magecraft for this creature is create a 1/1 black and green pest token creature with when it dies you gain a life. So that's pretty sweet. This card will probably see some play just because it's mono black. It has Menace. It takes 3 life to target it. I see this thing having some potential, especially since it's not legendary. Moving on, we have Plumb the Forbidden. Black and colorless. Additional cost of this spell, you sacrifice 1 or more creatures. When you do, you copy the spell for each creature you sacrifice this way. You draw a card and you lose a life. Um, Seems fine. Uh, Great in a token deck, but you gotta be careful you don't lose too much life. So, um, I just say it's kind of mediocre. All right, here we have the Unwilling Ingredient. We have 1 black for a 1/1, has Menace. For black and 2 colors, you exile the ingredient from your graveyard, you draw a card, and you lose a life. So this thing seems really good. Um, you can block with it and 3 mana draw a card off of it. It's definitely gonna be great in draft. I don't think it has a home in standard, but I could be wrong just from the fact that it has the ability to draw cards out of the graveyard. So I mean, it's multi-purposed. So moving on. So here we have Pigment Storm, 5 mana, sorcery, deals 5 damage to target creature. Excess damage is dealt that creature's controller instead. 5 for 5. It's alright. You'll see play in draft. Excavated Wall. One colorless for an 0/4 defender. One in tap, mill a card. So this might be a thing. Definitely going to be a thing in draft because you know mill and draft just go together like macaroni and cheese. So, um, yeah, look for this in draft. Next year we have Infused with Vitality. It's a green and a black instant. Until end of turn, target creature gains Death Touch, and when the creature dies, returns to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. You gain 2 life. This seems like a really good common. We talked earlier about black green and doing sacrifice stuff and how when certain creatures die, they trigger all these effects. I mean, just imagine using this and letting the creature die so the effects happen twice. It just seems bonkers. So moving on, we have Zephyr Boots, one colorless for an artifact equipment. Creature has flying. When the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card, then discard, and it equips for 2. Hmm. So for the low cost of 3 mana, you can make your attacker fly and turn it into a Merfolk Looter. Doesn't seem too shabby. I don't think it's going to be anything in standard, although I see this being a big thing in draft. All right, back to the rares again. We have the Callous Blood Mage. See a black and 2 colorless for a 2/1 Vampire Warlock. When it enters the battlefield, you choose one, create a 1/1 black green pest token with you gain life when it dies. You draw a card and lose a life, or exile target player's graveyard. So this thing is nice. I mean, this is basically uh, just like the enchantment that exiles the graveyard, but you got to put um, story counters on it. Um, I forget what it's called now, but like, yeah, same casting cost, but you can choose to do it instantly. If they don't have a graveyard to exile, or that's not the kind of deck you're playing against, you can still draw a card. So basically, 3 mana, 2/1, draw a card. There was a card like this way back in the day when I played. I think it was 3 mana for a 2/2 that you drew a card and lost a life. But that was the only ability. Like, this has extra abilities. For 3 mana, you could basically get 3/2 worth of power and toughness if you need it, or draw a card late game, or for something in someone's graveyard you need to exile, you can do that. It's not legendary, so it won't get stuck in your hand if you need to cast multiple ones. Like, I think this is going to be a pretty good powerhouse, especially in black. So as we move on, oops, my bad. We have the Poet's Quill, one black and one colorless. Artifact equipment. It's a rare. It says when Poet's Quill enters the battlefield, you learn. Okay. Equipped creatures +1/+1 has lifelink. Why is that on a black card? That's a white thing. Anyway, um, this seems pretty powerful, guys. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Basically, 2 mana tutor because you get to learn, and then you get to equip it for 2 more, which basically gives something +1/+1 and lifelink, which is what it would normally cost to do that. Like, this just seems like a solid card. Will it be played a lot? I don't know. I honestly don't think so, unless the learn mechanic becomes a real big thing, gets found a way to be abusive. But all in all, I think it's a solid card, guys. So moving forward, now we're back to modal cards again. So this one is the Search for Blex. 2 black, 2 colorless. Says look at top 5 cards of your library, put any number of them into your hand, and the rest in the graveyard. You lose 3 life for each card you put into your hand this way. Interesting. So not too bad, although 3 mana to draw 1 card is a bit steep. I don't know how often I would use this. Let's see what the green side has on it. So the green side we have Blex the Vexing Pest. So it's a green 2 colorless for a 3/2. Other pests, bats, insects, snakes, and spiders you control get +1/+1. When Blex Vesting Pest dies, you gain 4 life. All right. So like I can get down with this. I mean it's basically a lord for all the stuff that doesn't normally have lords. It's a mythic. It's 3/2 for 3. It's not too much. You do get life. It has a flip modal side in case you need to draw cards because you already have two of these because it's legendary. Yeah, out of 10, I'd give it a 5. It's not terrible. I see it being played. Here we go, guys. It's like Belladros, the Witherbloom. So this one is 7 mana. This is the Elder Dragon for Witherbloom. It's a 4/4, has flying. At the beginning of each upkeep, you create a 1/1 black and green pest token creature. When it dies, you gain a life. Pay 10 life, untap all lands you control, activate only once each turn. Holy cow. There's got to be some shenanigans going on with this. And you EDH guys, commander players, best of one, singleton, like, guys, this is your boy right here. 10 life, untap all your lands. Could you imagine what you could do with that if you had him in play? Like, you ramp him out, and then you just untap all that massive land generation and just, like, voila. I think it seems good, guys. Um, not gonna lie, seems pretty good. So next we have the Scurrid Colony. I guess that's the squirrel is the Scurrid. That's kind of disturbing. But anyway, green and colors for so 2/2 for 2, not too bad. Has reach. Okay, that's bonus. Gets +2/+2 as long as you control 8 or more lands. So this is a good common. 4/4 for 2 has good late game plus uh, good starting ground as a 2/2 for 2 with reach. It is a common. I don't see it being a real thing, but who knows? Maybe in the insect blessed deck or whatever it is. Pillar Drop Rescuer, white and 4 colorless for a 2/2 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature card with mana 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Yeah, because this is just what white needed. A Gravedigger for almost the same cost. Except it's 2/2 with you're paying extra mana for flying, and you can only get things that are so big. Yeah, it's a common. It's probably not going to see a whole lot of play, but in draft, this is going to be real annoying. And I really don't think this is something that should be part of this color wheel. Moving on, we have the Leech Fanatic, a black and a colorless for a 2/2, right on par as long as it's your turn. It has lifelink. Decent common. No standard. Let's see. Journey to the Oracle, 2 green, 2 colorless mythic. It's a modal card. Sorcery. Put any number of land cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Then, if you control 8 or more lands, you may discard a card. If you do, return Journey to the Oracle to its owner's hand. Interesting. This could be a thing, maybe. I don't know how good that's going to be for 4 mana to put lands on the field because when you get to 4 mana, you normally don't have a whole lot left to put on the field. Let's see what the other side's got on it. Maybe it makes it worthwhile. Um, do. All right, whoops. Jadiz, Oracle of whatever, 8 mana blue mythic for a 5/5. Jesus. Legendary creature, discard a card, you return it to your hand. Okay. Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy instant source spell, reveal a top card of your library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it by paying 1 colorless rather than paying its mana cost. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. So this is bonkers powerful. Um, but for 8 mana, I just don't see it having standard play. It costs way too much. It doesn't protect itself. Um, maybe something for commander, but I just don't see it being very good for standard. Spine Korok, 3 mana for 2/4. Vanilla, that's nice. Moving on. We have Tempted by Auric, 3 blue and 1. So 4 mana sorcery for each opponent. Gain control of up to 1 target creature or planeswalker that player controls with mana value 3 or less. Interesting rare. I don't see it very good in standard because it's 4 mana. You only get one thing, 3 or less. Not seeing it being a thing. Now, in Commander, however, big nappy group game, about 5 people around a table, and you cast this, you steal 3 or 4 different things for 4 mana. Yeah, I get behind this. So I think it's going to see play, just not in the way that most people normally see Magic played. Okay, moving on, we have Tend the Pests. So it's a black-green instant. Additional cost, cast a spell, you sack a creature. Create X 1/1 black and green pest token creatures where when it dies you gain a life, where X is a sacrifice creature's power. That's not too shabby. Once again, it seems like black-green has a sacrifice theme to it, so I would look for a deck and doing those kind of shenanigans if you're going to build black green. The Brackish Trudge. Black and 2 colorless for a 4/2, not too bad. It doesn't enter the battlefield tapped apparently. It's uncommon. For black and colorless, return it from your graveyard to your hand if you gain life this turn. Don't see it being a thing. Probably will get exiled if you play it in standard, but probably definitely something for draft. So next here we have Reject. That's kind of funny, little X on his forehead. A blue and a colorless for an instant counter target creature, planeswalker spell, less control, plays 3. If it's countered this way, exile it instead of putting it to the owner's graveyard. Uh, it's very Pacific even for 2. It's a calm. I don't see much play coming from this. There's better, more universal counter spells out there that you'd rather just play. Moving on, we have the Mage Duel in green. Green and 2 colorless for a sorcery. Spell costs 2 less to cast. If you cast another instant or sorcery this turn, target creature you control gets +1/+2 until the end of turn, then fights target creature you don't control. So this is pretty sweet. So you could pump a creature and then for 1 green have it fight something and get more bonuses and then swing in. I think it's gonna be great in draft. Definitely not something that's gonna. It's not gonna be a standard though. There's no way. So moving on, we have the Reckless Amplimancer. Green the colorless for a 2/2. For 5 mana, you double his power and toughness till end of turn. So if you've got, a random 10 mana laying around, you could make an 8/8 that someone can block with a 1/1. Yeah, good in draft, nothing standard. Moving on, the Springmare Curvin. Green 2 colors for 3/2. Enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. Basic green creature. Moving on. Mortality Spear. Black green 2 colorless. Spell costs 2 less to cast if you've gained life this turn. Destroy target non-land permanent. Wow. Yeah. I mean, first off, 4 mana as an instant to destroy a non-land permanent, any non-land permanent, is phenomenal. And if you gain life, it costs 2 less. I honestly don't care about playing it for 2. Because the stuff that probably really scares me is going to be cast for 5, 6, 7, like big planeswalkers or combos or what have you. Like, this thing is amazing. This is going to be one of the premier removal spells in black green for the new standard environment. Between this and the other black green enchantment that destroys non-land permanents when it comes into play, like black green is going to be really hard to get something to stick on the battlefield, guys. So like I see this and foil cards of this to be worth some serious money and see lots of play. So be ready out there, guys. All right, so okay, so this one is Elimination Ritual. It says destroy non-land mana cost permanent of 2 or less. Or I'm sorry, destroy all. I missed that part. Destroy all non-land permanents mana cost 2 or less. And for everyone that you do, you can add a green or a black for each one. Um, Again, sweet rare. Um, I don't know how good it's gonna be because it's the two or less clause. Um, I mean, I think it might be a good sideboard card against weenie decks. Because it's a 4 mana wrath against like mono red, mono white, white green. Plus, it ramps you in the same turn. Um, so I think it will see some play, but I really think it's going to depend on what the meta looks like. If we get away from weenie decks and they're not a thing, this is definitely going to be relegated to the sideboard. But if weenie decks become very popular and become one of the main things to beat, I could very easily see this beginning to get main boarded in a lot of green black decks. Just because on turn 4 you can just wipe the entire field, and a board wipe is something that black and green doesn't have right now. That's normally relegated to white. Um, Even though this is a black one that once again has a stipulation, just the ability for 4 mana to cast this and like blow up 4 creatures, get all that mana back, and then cast something of your own. It just seems great because it also says non-land, guys. So we're talking enchantments, artifacts. Like this could hit tons of stuff. I think it's really good, and depending on the format, could be a very valuable card. So as we move on, we have Mage Hunter's Onslaught, 4 mana. For sorcery, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Whenever a creature blocks this turn, its controller loses 1 life. Okay for a common. 4 mana, kill a creature or planeswalker. They lose a life if they block. That's okay too. I mean, it's a common. I don't think it's going to see a lot of play. I've seen a lot better cards than this, which is kind of hard to say because this kind of does everything you want in life. But believe it or not, there are better cards out there right now. So moving forward, we have the Twin Scroll Shaman, red 2 colors for 1/2 with double strike. Yep, that's trash. Moving on. Tangle Trap, green and a colorless. Choose one. 5 damage target creature flying or destroy an artifact. This is okay. I don't think artifacts are going to be real big. I'd be more leaning toward enchantments if I wanted a second one on this. Probably going to be a fine draft card, but I don't see anything in standard going down with this. Moving forward. Let's see here. This one is uh, something study. Kind of hard to read this. Yeah, my writing's awful. But anyway, it's a sorcery where basically you gain 4 life and then you learn for 2 mana. Not bad for a common. Basically 2 mana tutor and you gain some life. It might be playable just because we've ran across some cards that say if you gain life, do this. Plus it replaces itself with the learn ability. So it could be a thing, but I probably doubt it, honestly. Alright, so this one here is called the Spell Backpack. It has Magecraft, which whenever you cast an instant or sorcery or copy an instant or sorcery, what it does is you put a counter on this thing. And then by tapping it and removing a counter, you can get 1 colorless, so it's kind of like a mana rock that you have to build mana onto. But for 3 mana and tapping it, you can remove 3 of those counters and draw a card. So it's a mana rock that also lets you draw. So this might be a really good card because I've seen a lot of decks pop up lately that do a lot of instant sorcery casting. And for 2 mana to get this on the field first before the battlefield gets out of hand and then start zapping stuff off the field with shocks and frostbites, counter spells, what have you, and you start building counters on this thing so you can start drawing cards and getting more mana off of it. This could be a thing in some decks. Maybe not a real big thing because it doesn't do a whole lot other than remove 3 counters plus 3 cards. But if the decks are geared toward it, it could be a powerhouse. Is it blowing my socks off? No. Could I see it getting played? Yeah, I could. Probably about a 5 out of 10. So moving forward, we have Lash of Malice. 1 black target creature gets +2, -2 to it turns. An instant common. Can be removal, can be damage. It's alright. And it looks like, guys, that's all for this one. So we finally got through the next 20 or 30 cards. Man, this Strixhaven stuff is looking smoking hot. I mean, obviously not every card's a home run. They're not meant to be that way. But with that said, there are some real powerhouses and lots of synergies in this set. So, with that said, we get these last 10 spoiled, remember, for those who stuck around to hear the end, I'm going to start cranking out some Commander Drafter boxes, Commander Legend Drafter boosters. I'll start cranking those out. I got a whole case. We'll do an EV on it. Coming up, I'm going to talk a little bit more about some stuff I found out about collector boosters compared to the other sets, especially along with things like Mystical Archive. So, stay tuned for that. I got some really good information and some stuff you're probably going to want to know. So until next time, guys, get out there, get your local LGS. Let's start playing Magic in person again and seeing our friends and family. And as always, until next time, make sure you stay kind.